See, that's why I created this podcast, though, is I have a lot of buddies like you, and I don't want to blow a bunch of smoke up your ass, but you're one of the funniest people that I know.
Aw,
like there's obviously funnier people out there, but I haven't met them. You know what I mean? And so I was like thinking, I have a bunch of buddies that are super funny, and I'm like, hey, you know what? These people need a place where they can come on and be like, on a microphone, and then not have to deal with like the self-hate of editing it and all that shit. Because I can deal with it. I'm just like, hey, I sound like shit, but I can just edit, and then like I feel like I'm a better judge of like what your best moments are than you.
That's the case for most things, though. You know what I mean? I think everybody's really hypercritical of themselves. So if you like, in other words, when it comes to music, I'm not the world's greatest singer, but I can definitely hear if you suck or not. You know? And that's the case for a lot of people.
I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of what's good and what's not good.
I think you are too, honestly.
So, anyways, and then obviously a lot of these podcasts, like we're still fine tuning everything. I'm still like, I feel like there's just a list of things that are like kind of like mind blocks. Like, hey, I can't make any more episodes till I do this. But I'm like, hey, I just need to start cranking them out.
I can't believe you're flipping this far. Like, holy shit. I want to just take a pic. In fact, let's take a picture real quick. No, just right here. I'm going to take a picture on my phone.
Okay.
As soon as you get really famous, you're the next Joe Rogan. I want to tell people I knew you. You know? Wait, let me get in here with this mic. little office, little makeshift table. It's actually bitching.
So this is it is kind of like a public service, I guess. I consider this a public service because I feel like there's just a lot of people I know that just need to sit down and they need to talk into a microphone, and they need to be asked questions.
Why don't we get some coffee, bro?
Oh yeah, we will. Let's go get breakfast, Earl. This is just a test thing, but because I need to fine tune the audio anyways. But this is like like people need to be able to sit down. They need to be like interviewed. They need to have questions asked to them.
Yeah.
Because who actually sits down, takes the time to interview people? And
I think that's the biggest thing right there, though, is like a lot of people have really good ideas, but only when the question is asked. You know what I mean? Like they're not just going to open up about some topics or an opinion right off the bat. You know what I mean?
Well, people have conversations in their head all the time. They have like fake arguments in the shower, and they're always right in their mind. And so when I say there's a public service, there's so many people that I think need, if you're not like an extrovert, if you're not already super entertaining, very few people are going to take the time to sit down and just interview you and ask you questions, ask you what your thoughts are, and then get that on recording and have that recording like available to like send to them to look back on and be like, oh, that's how I sound. I didn't know I sounded that way. And it's funny because I've gotten a lot of mixed, because what I always do is I do the podcast. We record anywhere from like 1 to 3 hours of audio. Yeah. I send the raw audio, unedited on anything, to the person I did the podcast with. Yeah. And then let them listen to it and reflect on who they are as a person. And then I edit it so it all makes sense and it's actually like an entertaining piece of audio. I get rid of like a 3-hour podcast. I'll cut it down to like an hour and a half. Because like a lot of the stuff we talk about.
Cut it down a lot more than that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. And then,
like an hour and a half podcast is long, isn't it? Seems like it'd be really.
I don't know. I'm the type of person I'll listen to a 4-hour podcast, no problem.
Really?
I don't do not all in one whack, but yeah, I drive semis all day, so like I'll listen to it for an hour or two.
Even when I drove semis, I could only bear 30 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
But okay, so I don't always listen to them in one whack. I have a YouTube Premium, and I will download them. And then I just have all my downloads, and I'll go click play on one. I'll listen to it for like an hour and a half. I'm like, okay, this is way too much science. Then I'll click over to like a funny one or an audiobook. Nice. Sometimes it takes me, sometimes I'll listen to something, I'll get halfway through it, and then I won't come back to it for a month. And then a month later, I'll go finish it.
Does something sparks your interest in that topic again, so you decide to finish it?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I heard about this. I remember this now from this audio.
Yeah. But back to Joe Rogan. So I've listened to Joe Rogan more than I've listened to my parents. So I'm like the ultimate Joe Rogan fan, but I agree with you in the sense that like after you listen to enough Joe Rogan, you're like, I know what he's going to say before he says it.
Yeah.
He has like 20 topics that come up in every conversation. He has the same opinion on all 20 topics. He talks about, and it changes obviously the 20 topics. Let's say even 10 topics. I don't know the exact number, but it's like ivermectin. And then like apes and chimpanzees and like DMT and like I have a buddy that, you know, MMA. It's like it's the same shit over and over because you only have so many thoughts. So I agree with you in the sense that like even though I really like Joe Rogan, like I've gotten to the point where it's like I can't listen to Joe Rogan. I can't listen to every podcast. I'll listen to like 1 in 10 or 1 in 15 of the ones he does these days because it's too much. I can't have so much of the same thing where I'm actually looking for other podcasts. So like in the last year, I've listened to a shit ton of podcasts, and even though a lot of times they'll have the same guests, there's like the top podcast guests that everybody wants on, and then all of a sudden, one person will pick them up, and then everybody picks them up.
Jordan Peterson's hot, dude, right now. You need to get Jordan Peterson on your podcast, and you'll be...
He's dropped off a little bit, I guess.
With that one last comment he made, he did, but I think he just woke up. I think that's just the liberals that we're getting after.
What last comment?
With the whole making the sports magazine where they posted a overweight, I guess, a fat. Let's be honest.
Well, there's no PC on this podcast.
Okay, they posted some fat girl on a sports magazine. And he made a comment about it. No, he wrote, "That's not beautiful." Oh, fixing that here.
I'm trying to tighten that up.
There, is that better?
I'll adjust it here in a bit.
Anyways, he was just basically saying that is not beautiful, and that shouldn't be a beauty standard. And it wasn't even that he was saying the girl wasn't beautiful, because she actually does have a very beautiful face.
But it is a girl.
It is a girl. Yeah.
Okay. I just to clarify, I don't know where we're at these days.
I tell you what, like
everything's a little bit crazy.
Nowadays, you got to explain to your kids the birds and the bees and the bees, the birds and the birds, the birds that want to be bees and the bees that want to be birds.
It's funny.
It's confusing times. No, he was basically saying that that should not have been posted on sports magazine
because she's fat. Like she's not a peak athlete.
Yeah, because it's like, what's besides the point that she's beautiful. It wasn't that she was beautiful or not. You know what I mean? But sports magazine is supposed to be the top of the pyramid of fitness.
Is it Sports Illustrated you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's supposed to be the peak human form, like of beauty. When it came to like women, it's peak woman form, peak male form. You know, you can only imagine. Every single guy that gets on there is just absolutely shredded. You know what I mean? Yeah. Then you go put on this 310-pound hippo, and he gets on there and like with his shirt off, it's gross. You know what I mean? And it's not to say that she wasn't pretty, because she actually had a very beautiful face, overweight body, but very beautiful face. And he was just made a comment about it and said that our society is so twisted now, like that's just, I can't believe that everybody is giving this girl so much like love or whatever, or not even to the girl exactly. He was saying like the magazine, like they're all, it's progressive times, like overweight women can now be on sports, like what a win, right?
Here's the thing. Okay, not to cut you off, but I have like two things to mention. One, I don't really care, no offense. We were getting to Jordan Peterson of why he fell off, and this is why I was telling this. No, I'll tell you why he really fell off. I'll tell you why he fell for me. I don't know why he fell for everyone. Jordan Peterson's always been controversial. That's the thing. He got famous for being controversial. The original thing was he was a professor in, I believe, Toronto, somewhere in Canada.
Yep.
He was a professor, and he basically said that the laws they're passing to where, like, if someone says, hey, I want to be known as a woman, even though, they're biologically a male, you legally have to call them
free speech.
By the female pronouns, or else you can get, like, in trouble legally. And he's like, this is dangerous. This is bad. There's a whole outcry. All the students were, like, organizing and protesting him teaching at the university. That was why he originally kicked off. So I don't think that the controversy... If Jordan Peterson has dropped off, which I don't even know, like, statistically what his numbers are, if he's losing viewers, if he's gaining viewers, the reason he's fallen off for me personally is at the core of what made Jordan Peterson interesting to begin with has already been, to a degree, in my mind, used up. Like, he doesn't have fresh ideas.
What?
Hold on.
No.
Hold on. Let me finish this. No. Listen. He doesn't have that many fresh ideas that make him super interesting. What he has now, what a lot of these people have, what everybody has when they get too big, is they have hot takes on current events. That's what it becomes. And everyone gets tired of hot takes. So when you say I should have Jordan Peterson on, I think it'd be cool. I like Jordan Peterson on. If you want to be on my podcast, I would absolutely 100% be like head over heels to get him on my podcast. But he's not the main goal of my podcast, because I don't think that most of the people that are big right now, most of them are only original about like 10% of the time. The other 90% of the time, they kind of get so big to the point where it's almost like they can't have very many new original thoughts, or they don't, because it's easier just to go, pick
to have somebody interesting say the same thing.
To just kind of like, people act, they get on YouTube and they're like, oh, well, you can't say this day. Nobody says this day, but then everybody says that. You know what I mean? Everyone says, you can't say this. It's offensive to say that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. But it's like, hey, everybody is saying that. Like, you're not that interesting. And also, what does it have to do with what, like, you specialize in as a person? They become too generic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know about the whole Jordan Peterson don't have new thoughts. That guy, every other day I find something else from him that surprises me. I've read his books, and I've watched most of his podcasts. I've watched every talk that he's ever given.
Really?
Yeah.
On his podcast?
Yeah, on like his channel.
Wow, that's great. He has some great. I can't listen to him. He's too heavy.
What?
Maybe we're picking the wrong person to talk. I guess maybe I don't listen to.
I freaking love that guy. His opinions and everything. He uses common sense. It's not like, oh, I'm so conservative. He just gives a really unbiased opinion. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And even though it's just his opinion, I love that he uses logic to give his opinion, and he's not trying to please anybody. You know what I mean? He's not out to make other people happy, or even his viewers. He don't care. You know what I mean? He's saying his piece, and whether it's controversial or not, he just says what he thinks. And as a professional, he stays within the realm of his profession. He doesn't go outside of it. You know what I mean? Of psychiatry?
Yeah, I think so. Psychiatry.
No, how do you... Is it you in the realm of psychiatry or
yeah, that's it. Psychology.
Psychology, I guess. Mm-hmm. He's a psychiatrist or a psychologist. They're almost the same, right?
I don't know.
Well, yeah, they are almost the same. I think one just prescribes you medication, and the other one deals with the mind.
So a therapist deals with the mind, and a psychiatrist.
A psychologist deals with the mind.
Oh.
And then a psychiatrist still deals with the same mind, but like through physical, like I'm going to give you drugs.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but they're almost, they're both a clinic. They both deal with how the human brain works and why. But like, let's say you're a depressed individual and you come to a psychiatrist, he's going to give you antidepressant pills. And if you come to a psychologist, he's going to talk you through it and work out your past emotional trauma.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. So what's a therapist? Just like a
Same
great
shit.
Value brand psychologist?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a not quite as legit, may or may not solve some problems.
Therapist is just somebody to hear, you have your problems with the wife, you both get together and she just sits there on a couch and says, scream into this pillow, That's a therapist.
Is that
to make therapy feel good?
I've never been to therapy, but...
I haven't either, but fuck, I need to go.
This is therapy. This is therapy for the people that can't afford it.
There you go. Hey, maybe that's what you should call it. It's a good name right there too. That's a thought to consider.
What, therapy for people that can't afford it?
No, just the therapy podcast.
Okay, so I have two names right now, and neither of them are great. One is I really love Douglas Adams. He's my favorite author of all time. If I had to pick one, he writes The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so...
I was like, I don't know if I've heard him, but definitely I watched that. Yeah,
the second book is the Restaurant at the End of the Universe, and I was thinking about calling it the Podcast at the End of the Universe, but it might be a little bit too dramatic.
It's a little far-fetched, but it's pretty cool.
And then the other one is, I kind of just want to go, like, generic, but
you're almost better off doing it and just letting people call it what they want, and then it becomes its own name.
Maybe I should just use my name, just be like... The Gilbert LeBaron Experience.
Nah,
it'd be stupid.
That's stupid.
Or I could call it the Great Northern Podcasting Company, because then but it kind of implies.
I feel like if you have too big of a name though, that's almost like it needs to roll off. It needs to be short. You know what I mean? Joe Rogan. short.
Well, it's no, Joe Rogan's actually the Joe Rogan Experience.
Oh,
so people always just say, "Have you been on Rogan?" or the JRE? That's what they call it. But
the Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too long. It's too long.
Well, it's according to who? It's the biggest podcast out there.
I know.
Something's working. No, I think the reason Joe Rogan's so big is because he's a comedian and he knows comedians.
Yeah.
And so he's inherently pretty, I'm not a fan of his comedy per se, but he's spent years and years and years and years and years on a stage every single night figuring out how to make people laugh. Talking to people, and then he had because if you go back to his first podcast, his first guests ever were Brian Redband, who's a comedian, Tom Segura, Joey Diaz,
I watched the one with Joey Diaz.
A bunch of his comedian buddies from the early days. So he had two things. This is what my belief is, and I've never talked to anyone about this, but this is my belief based upon what I know about other, that YouTuber Casey Neistat?
No.
Somebody did he's a really big YouTuber. I don't watch him, but he's one of the biggest of all time. And
what's his name?
Casey Neistat.
Casey Neistat.
Yeah. You've probably seen his face, you just don't recognize the name. But he was one of the biggest YouTubers in the beginning of YouTube, and somebody did a breakdown of why he became the king of YouTube for a while there.
Well, what's he do?
I don't know because I don't watch him, but I know he does travel vlogs, and I know he does
travel vlogs.
He's just your kind of run-of-the-mill YouTuber, so far as I know. But basically, in a nutshell, this guy was he got very big very quickly in the early days of YouTube. And the reason he got so big so early is because YouTube was a new technology. And he was already a film producer. He'd already gone to school, or he'd already basically had a lot of experience with different camera angles, different shots, cinematic quality videos. He was already well invested and had, spent thousands and thousands of dollars on getting good at videography. Yeah. And so by the time YouTube rolled around, it started going viral.
Just right up his alley.
Everyone was making these shitty, 2008 camera quality videos.
I remember those. Those are the best videos, though.
Yeah, well, they were at the time. You go back now, and they're not as amazing.
I'm saying funny-wise. They were always the funniest damn videos.
Yeah.
The low-quality videos.
But so he went viral, or when videos first started going viral, he was already teed up to be the guy that was really good at. Same with podcasting.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Joe Rogan was doing podcasting, and podcasting was first invented. He was an early adopter, and he was already the guy that had all the experience being on stage for hours and hours every night for dozens of years.
Yeah.
Making people laugh, entertaining people. So that, to me, that makes sense it gave him the boost early on. So now you could look at all these podcasts, and there's so many good ones out there. You're like, why is Joe Rogan the biggest? Because he's not necessarily the best, even though he is good. And it's kind of like that first mover advantage.
Yeah, that's kind of how our conversation was going too with me and Quay, because we were saying that nowadays, if you wanted to start a podcast, there's way too much competition. There's
it's not
thousands of people. Is that not true? Because I feel there's everybody and their dog has a podcast now.
There are thousands, but it doesn't. I still find new podcasts. So it's if you like a certain type of ice cream, you like Hagen. Yeah. You like vanilla Hagen. That's your go-to ice cream. You love it, and then someday you try a different brand. A new brand comes on the market. If it's good, you're gonna eat it. You know what I mean? So I personally am still looking for new content. I haven't just settled on one podcast and that's all I listen to. I find new podcasts all the time.
I don't think anybody does, but I'm just saying that there's so many upcoming even podcasters. It's famous now. It's trending now to be a podcaster. You know what I mean? You'll see all these YouTubers or even these kids on TikTok, and all of them be like, "Oh, I'm doing a podcast later on."
I think that if you're not good at podcasting, you're not going to get views if you're not interesting. But I think if you have an interesting podcast, really good, just that people actually like, it doesn't matter how much competition's out there. People are going to listen to it and share it.
Well, I also think it has a lot to do with who is on your podcast. Again, you get these people, let's just say a nobody, right? That maybe has 10,000 followers or whatever. Most people don't even really care. Like, it's hard to get over that curb. But you get somebody, who's a random human being that has a crap ton of followers that's upcoming right now. Charlie D'Amelio or something. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, but no, like, let's say Addison Rae, right? She blew up on TikTok, became one of TikTok's biggest or most followed users, like,
Literally
overnight.
never heard of her.
Okay, well, you don't have TikTok. I do.
Okay.
Okay. She got huge, right? Mm-hmm. Well, for no reason. I don't even know why either. But my point is that if she was to go start a podcast, it would actually get famous. Mm-hmm. Because overnight she has some freaking 10 million followers in 2-3 days. Then all of a sudden she was like, oh, I'm going to do a podcast. Those 10 million people are going to be like, oh, I wonder what she's going to say, and go on to it.
But here's the thing.
Even though she's not interesting.
But here's the thing. Two things. That doesn't necessarily translate over, because I've heard about a lot of the things that TikTok has tried to, like TikTok influencers, air quotes, have tried to do. And a lot of them don't pan out. Like, I know there's been a couple that have, like, tried to get into music, tried to, like, do records, tried to do concerts.
There's one person that just got literally world famous off of her music on TikTok. She's touring right now.
But is she good?
Yeah, she is.
So that's why she's actually good. I'm just saying, just because you're big on TikTok doesn't mean
well, of course, if you suck at life, then you can't cover it up.
Yeah, but you're saying that it depends on who you have on, and I don't think it's so much about who you have on as, like, is your podcast good or not? That's all I'm saying. I think if it's a good podcast, if it's worth listening to, then it's going to get
I think that's one or the other, 100%. If you have something that's super interesting and it's a good podcast, obviously people are going to listen to it. But let's just say you got Addison Rae onto this podcast right now.
I probably won't.
You won't, but let's just say that you did. You could throw a thumbnail on a YouTube video, a podcast with Addison Rae, and she said something controversial or whatever, who gives a shit. And then it would immediately get a lot of clout, because everybody's like, oh, it's Addison Rae. She's not even an interesting individual, but why is she on my mind?
No.
You know what I mean? Why am I talking about her right now? And she's not even interesting. That's my point.
You're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong. But
so it's one or the other. Either you have to be really good at podcasting, or you just got to get lucky.
I'd rather just be really good. And I think that, here, this is actually my counterpoint to that, is that just because somebody's really famous and just because you get a lot of really famous people on there isn't a guarantee that anyone's going to want to listen to it.
Well, point proven, probably. I'm just saying, you see really famous people do stupid shit. And if any average Joe was to try that out, it wouldn't work. It doesn't pan out for them. But it's just because they already are famous that it pans out. Maybe podcasting is a different
I haven't
game.
seen it panning out, though. Who's an example of somebody that's super famous but not interesting that it has worked out for?
Charlie D'Amelio.
She has a podcast?
Well, I'm saying I don't know about podcasting in general. I mean, I'm saying life.
Like, who has a podcast?
Like, I'm saying they like Charlie D'Amelio goes, or her sister, Dixie. Charlie D'Amelio got famous, right? And then Dixie goes into the singing industry, right? And goes
is she a singer?
Air quotes, a singer.
But is she get? But
she sucks. Singing? Yeah, she's made millions of dollars.
Are you sure?
Yes.
All right, let's look it up, because
I would look it up.
Well, singing's different than podcasting. What we're talking about
she
here is podcasting.
She made some big hit too, or I think hit songs, and they were garbage songs. And then Addison Rae got into acting, and she's acting in movies now. And I'm like, damn, like, if you're popular.
This girl looks like she's 16.
I think she is.
Oh, that's Addison Rae?
Yeah.
Huh. So basically she's famous because she's young and she's pretty, or what?
She's not even that pretty.
Yeah, she's not really that pretty, is she?
7 at best.
Okay, look, I don't know anything about TikTok. I know about podcasting. What I'm talking about is podcasting here. It doesn't matter how famous you are. If your podcast isn't interesting, no one's going to listen to it. And if you are interesting, I think that podcasting is actually the most equal, egalitarian media out there. meaning that if you are very interesting, people will listen to you. It doesn't matter about fame. And I'll give you an example. Barack Obama started a podcast and it flunked.
Way. Did he really?
Yeah, I think it was like a couple of years ago. Let's see when his first episode.
He started a podcast?
Yeah, but guess what? It flunked. It got no views and they canceled it because no one listened to it.
Because everybody hates Obama.
No, a lot of people like Obama, but Obama, it was overproduced. It wasn't interesting. It was way too politically correct. It didn't matter that Barack Obama was the most important person in the entire world. If he can't entertain, he can't entertain.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Same with the governor of North Dakota, Doug Burgum.
I don't really know so much about like podcasting. That's what I'm saying. I think podcasting is probably a different realm because you're listening to two people talk. You know what I mean? And unless the conversation's interesting, it does make sense that you just turn it off.
Barack Obama and Bruce Springsteen. Oh, why is this on Spotify? It's not going to show me the views.
Where do you post your podcasts anyways? Like, where do you even go to listen to these?
It's all on the podcast, wherever you go, Spotify, iHeartRadio.
But it's like all of them together, or do you post on one location?
Yeah, they're all there. So basically they automatically post to any podcasting site that's linked to. I just post it on one place. It's called Spreaker.
Spreaker?
Spreaker. It's just a podcast hosting.
There's your plug-in, Spreaker.
I'll explain it to you. Basically, you have to record your podcast, edit it, and then you have to post it to a podcast hosting site, and they basically have the file in their server, and that's where your podcast is. And then to get it to show up on like Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Amazon, like all the places you go to listen, Google Podcasts, all the places you go to listen. No, you basically, all they're doing is linking your podcast to their website. So all these podcasts like on Spotify, they're not actually in Spotify. They're just, Spotify's like Google. They just search for podcasts that are out there.
Oh, really?
And if you link it, you have to link it to their I don't know the exact specifics, but once I post
it's not on a Spotify server. It's on this
exactly
freaking whatever the name is.
Yeah, they just connect to your, what it's called, an RSS feed.
Okay.
And I don't ask me what that stands for.
It's on their server, and then when you go to Spotify and you type it into its search engine, it's just pulling it from their server.
Yes, but you do have to, sign up with Spotify to have your podcast added to like their
list
catalog, basically. Yeah, you do have to connect it, but then once you connect it one time, it just automatically posts it to like their, the 6 or 7 places. And then YouTube is where I'm trying to get people to listen to it because I can actually keep track of the views and whatnot. But go for it. But YouTube, I have to actually go create a video and post it. So but I actually have.
You want to know something with YouTube? Is I've been thinking about doing. There's this one kid that I saw the other day. I was jealous as hell. So the things I like to do in life, probably the things I love most is golfing and scuba diving, right? Mm-hmm. My two places where I can, it's weird, dude. It is really weird, but they're both a different life. Like it's almost a different world for me. When I'm out on a golf course, it is super weird. I know not everybody gets the same feeling, and that's probably why they don't like it. But reason I love it so much is you get in there, and when you're on a course, every problem I ever have just fades away. And it almost sounds fake, like I'm making shit up. Mm-hmm. But every time I'm on a golf course, I completely forget about everything. You know what I mean? Like it's just you, it's the ball, it's the course. You're out there, and every shot you make, the thing I love about it probably the most is that it's just you and the ball. You're not a teammate. When you play volleyball, you play basketball, everybody always walks out trash talking that one team player like, oh yeah, you screwed up your pass, you screwed up whatever. If you would have made that fucking 3-pointer, we would have won the game, fuck you. And yada yada, and it's teamwork. And a lot of people want to say that that's a good thing. You're learning how to work as a team. Mm-hmm. But I like golf because it's just me. And if I do a bad shot, it's just me. Mm-hmm. And I have to make up for that bad shot. But if I do a great shot...
So you're saying you're not a team player?
I'm probably not a team player, no. Because then when you're out on a golf course, you hit a good shot, the adrenaline rush you get, but it's like, that was all me. You know what I mean? I did that. I stuck that. you know, and I pinned that flag. I sunk that. I made that birdie. I made that eagle. That was me, you know, and writing it, I don't know. It's just cool. And then on top of it, you're out there just enjoying it. There are always beautiful courses. You just feel like you're on a different planet. Like
I'm sold. I'll buy it. I'll buy it. Whatever. Just, where
whatever
do I
you're
sign
selling.
it? Where you want to get my credit card? I love golf too. Golf's great, but I mean, I'm probably not as into it as you. But and I'm also not a team player, so maybe that's why I like it. But golf's great.
You should definitely get into it. But that, and then scuba diving. Scuba diving is the exact same thing, dude. That's probably why they both have a correlation there. Like when I'm down deep inside the water, you forget that there's a planet above you. You're sitting there in a scuba gear, and it's so beautiful and breathtaking, and all these random creatures that you've never seen before that you can't think about. You're not thinking about. I shouldn't say you can't, but you're not thinking about what's on the surface. Obviously,
yeah, that's interesting.
You're just paying attention to what's right in front of you. You know what I mean? And you're just like, whoa! You're just constantly being mind blown and trying to see what's around the next little bit of coral. So you're always just diving around the coral, just trying to see what's around the next coral, and it's beautiful. You should, dude. I'm telling you, I keep telling you, you need to come diving with us sometime.
Well,
but it's literally the coolest
Where do you go
thing.
diving at? You go to the ocean, Florida.
Yeah, Florida. Go dive in the Keys or Cancun. I've dove like probably 5-6 times in Cancun, and then.
Oh wow! Like on one trip, or like you've been to Cancun 5 or 6 times?
No, I went to Cancun twice, and then I dove 3 and 2, and then I've been to Florida once, one time. Is all, but we went for a full week, and we dove every single day, multiple dives. We dove 3 times a day.
That's amazing.
For 6 days, and then we had to take 1 day, 24-hour break to fly. But it was actually above your limit. You're not even supposed to dive that much, but we obviously didn't give a shit, and we just dove.
Aren't you not supposed to fly after doing a lot of scuba diving?
Yeah, that's why we had to take a day. You have to take 24 hours.
Oh.
So we
to let like the nitrogen in your blood do its thing?
Exactly. Okay. You have to let the nitrogen out of your blood. But yeah, so we had to take 1 day off, and we just went and toured and stuff. But it was really cool. But we dove every single day, and holy shit, we go on some cool dives. I feel like after that one trip in Florida, it was like, damn, I'm a diver now, because it was like 3 times a day, dude, literally diving all freaking day, to where you were just exhausted, and I thought we were all gonna flip and die or something from like nitrogen poisoning. We didn't, but because that's what they tell you, if you dive that much, like it's dangerous. But we dove so freaking much, and we went to like every single wreck site, ship sites that they have. We went to like random. We bought a boat just to go. Like all the guys pitched in. We were thinking about renting a boat, and then we realized it was almost as expensive to rent a boat, and then you have to hire a captain to drive a boat, and they only let you go to certain sites with their rentals. We're like, fuck that, let's just go buy a boat. So we found this really cheap little $5,000 boat. It's actually funny yourself story, but we went and bought this little cheap $5,000 boat, and Brandon is a pretty good mechanic, and he just fixed it up, right? It had a carburetor needed replaced, and he goes and fixes it up and tows it down there, and we all throw down $5K for it, and we go out into the ocean, and we're literally miles. You can't even see land, dude. We're miles away from any land, and the boat breaks down on us.
Holy shit.
We're out there diving too. So what's really crazy, I swear I'm not making this up, and obviously they're not like I'm not going to exaggerate here at all, but we were diving, and it was the first time I saw some sharks out there, right? So we're diving on this coral that we just randomly found, not like a specific spot. We were just looking in the water, and we're like, hey, that looks interesting. Let's dive in there. So we dive down there, and I see this 6-foot reef shark, right? And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I actually have a video of it. And I go up to it, and I get a cool little video of it or whatever. And the current actually pulled me probably like 100 to 150 feet away from the boat, downstream or whatever, right, away from it. And I pop up, and I'm like, hey, there's a sweet shark over here. And Bryce and all of them were flipping pissed because they were in the boat, and they realized it's broken down. Now they're all panicking, like, what the hell? Cole's 150, 200 feet away. And he's like, get over here. So I'm sitting there trying to swim with all my gear back up. And I get all the way over there, and they're like, what the fuck are we going to do? Oh my hell, it was hilarious. But we ended up having to call in a towboat, and a towboat came and pulled us back to shore.
Is that expensive as getting a tow truck here in North Dakota?
It wasn't that expensive. It was $600.
Oh yeah, that ain't bad.
Yeah, we found some guy who just did it locally. Like, it wasn't like a legit big tugboat. It was just he goes and tows out random.
How big was your guys' boat? Was it like a yacht?
Tiny, dude.
Did it have like a cabin?
No, no, not at all. It's one of those little. It's a wakeboard boat. It was a wakeboarding boat, and we took it clear out into the ocean. Little beater, dude, like absolute beater. And
I don't think a beater boat is where you want to buy the beater.
Yeah,
that's kind of risky.
No, I'm telling you,
it was. On the ocean.
It was so overloaded too. It was way overweight for because we had all of our scuba gear on it, right? And we had 8 guys on our little wakeboard boat, right? It was funny and shit, but it was a good experience. We went clear out there, and they towed it back. Once we get back into town, Brandon goes out and buys some more parts, fixes it up, and we're back at it the next day.
What was broken on it?
The battery, the alternator wasn't charging the battery, so the battery was just dead. And the guy tried giving us a jump too, but it didn't work. I don't even know exactly. Brandon was just saying that basically it was the alternator not charging the battery. Mm-hmm. So he went out and bought a new battery, fixed the alternator on it to charge the one. So we, and then had a spare. And then he also cleaned the carburetor. He said it got flooded again or some shit like that. He did a poor job the first time, so he cleaned it out again, and it worked. And it hasn't broken down since. So, but
hell yeah, you guys still have the boat, or you guys just sell it?
No, we still have the boat. I'm 1/5 owner in a.
That's hilarious. Where's it at, Missouri?
No, it's actually in Utah right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, was it parked at your guys' shop there down at the creek? I think I saw it.
Yeah.
That's funny. Me and Solomon kind of did the same thing one time. We went to Hawaii when I was like 17, he was like 19, and we bought plane tickets to Hawaii on his credit card. And we show up, and we're like just beach bums. We literally have like a couple $100 between us. We show up at the Kahului airport in what island were we on? Maui.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know any of the names there.
We were on Maui, and we show up in this. That's funny. I remember the name Kahului, the name of the town, but I don't remember the island I was on. We show up in Kahului literally with our suitcases and some backpacks and like nothing, and we're so broke we don't even want to like hire a cab because we're like, hey, based on the amount of money we have right now, we can order 3 McChickens a day for the next 30 days before we're broke. Like, we got a budget, so we ended up going, and that might be, we had credit cards, so it's Solomon's credit card too. But we ended up like going on this big trip around the island. We bought bikes at Walmart, like just real cheap bikes. Just abused the shit out of them, but we ended up riding bikes for like a week. And we got so fucking sick of riding bikes everywhere, and we ended up buying a cheap car on the island after like a week of being there. And we literally bought this car. I think we bought it for $100.
What?
And none of the windows rolled down except for like 2 windows, and the AC didn't work, and most of the doors didn't open. And and I swear I'm not exaggerating, only one door opened, and it was the back passenger door. So in order to get into the car, you had to open the back passenger door, and you had to crawl over the seats to get to the driver's seat. It was such a shit show. And we drove around in this piece of shit little car, and it had like a million problems. We drove around in it for like a week or 2 or whatever, and then we ended up selling it at the airport as we're flying back to the mainland. We ended up selling it to a guy for like $300. Like, here you go.
No way. Well, you made money.
Well, we made money.
You made money going to Hawaii. Look at that. Yeah, well, those are always the best experiences when you're broke and you're just trying to figure it out. I feel like they are, anyways. When you're spontaneous, you have to do spontaneous things. You know, like one of the cooler trips I went on, Brian Stubbs, just randomly. I was working in my shop down there in Utah, right? And he just drives up and says, "Hey, jump in. We're getting out of here." I'm like, "Where are we going?" "Just jump in. Don't fucking worry about it." I was like, "Órale." So I literally didn't pack nothing. I just jumped in the vehicle, and he starts driving. And I'm like, and we just started bullshitting. I didn't care where we were going. We just started talking, and about an hour and a half down the road, I'm like, "Dude, where the fuck are we going?" Like we're quite a ways out of town now, and we're going to Sedona. And I'm like,
hell yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, we're going to Sedona, eh? And there was me, Bryce, Quaid, and Brian, right? Just 4 of us. And we all just head down to Sedona, and we spent like 3 days in Sedona and just drank wine, fucking just toured the town and just had a good time, dude. And it was awesome. Just spontaneous as hell. whatever we needed, we just did it real quick. Hey, we need a place to stay. Found a quick hotel. Went and tried out the fanciest freaking restaurants.
That's cool.
But it was just really spontaneous, just out of the blue. Like I was working one day and all of a sudden, hey, jump in the vehicle. We're going somewhere, right? I was like, that's badass. That's actually, I swear, Brian's probably the coolest guy to hang out with, like the coolest friend, because he's so spontaneous. I promise you, I was on a golf course one time and he was sick of playing golf and he randomly was like, do you guys trust me? And I was like, yeah, bro, like, but why? You know what I mean? Not like when you say that, now it's scary. You know what I mean? Why do you have to ask? And he's like, okay, let's go. And I'm like, bro, I already paid for golf. Like I want to finish my 18. And do you fucking trust me or not? Pack up your fucking clubs. Let's go. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, let's go. I know it's going to be cool though. So I was like, hey, whatever. So I literally just throw my clubs in the truck and he bought us all helicopter tickets to fly over Zion.
Jesus Christ.
Just like that. He just literally, I was just like, oh, that's fucking badass. Like, we didn't even know though. He just threw our clubs in the back of his truck. He pulls up to the helicopter place. I bought us tickets. And I was like, fucking A, dude. That's a good friend.
That's awesome. That's amazing. You guys just didn't have the time to finish the 18 or what?
I don't freaking know. He just randomly bought tickets and we had to go. So I was like, oh.
That's impressive, but also kind of like would make me nervous. Like, oh, Brian's a little quiet back there. Guy's better golf fast as fuck because he's got something going on.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Went on his phone for 15 minutes.
You never know, dude. You never know with that guy, but that's what makes life interesting with him. Like as soon as life gets a little bit too dull, if you're hanging around him for a few weeks and all of a sudden he feels like it's getting too boring, you know he's about to do something, you know.
That's wild.
You know he's about to, you almost want to make life boring for him, so he'll do something.
That is super. Yeah, I can't keep track of him. I hang out with Brian. I call him when I'm driving and stuff, and it's like, I've been trying to get him to do this podcast with me, said he'd do it, but the timing hasn't worked out. But I'll talk to him. He'll be like, yeah, I'm doing this and this and this. And then like a week later, I'll call him. He's like, no, I'm in Utah. And then I'll be like, oh, I guess he moved back to Utah. I wish I'd have hung out with him more while I was here.
And then
adios. Next thing you know, he's like, yeah, I'm here in Wofford City. I was like, well, shit, come stay at my house. Come spend the night. A week later, or a day later, I'll call him. He's like, no, I'm living in Newtown now. I'm like, holy shit, dude, I can't even keep track. I don't even keep track of him. I don't even know what he's doing, but.
Yeah, that guy's definitely living an adventure. Goes and gets his pilot's license, randomly goes and starts flying. And
do you think it is spontaneous, or do you think he just plans it all out and just slowly hits each goal like one by one?
No, I think he definitely has planned because the guy is pretty good when it comes to like starting a business or whatever. You know,
it seems like you would have gone broke if you didn't plan it out a little bit.
That's what I'm saying. No, he plans his finances out, I think, really well. But I think he's really good. He has a really well-balanced work hard, play hard. Like he works really hard. He comes up here, he hustles for 2 months. You don't hear from him. Then all of a sudden out of the blue, he's really spontaneous as soon as he's down to play, right? So all of a sudden out of the blue, he'll hit you up. Hey, you know, I'm going here for a week. Jump in with me. Let's go. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's the vibe that he puts out. He actually does hustle. He works really hard, but it is interesting. It's always fun when he's just down to vacation or whatever, and he just gives you a random phone call. You're like, damn, what adventure are we going on? You know
Speaking of spontaneity, this is the longest mic test I've ever done in my life. Should we like grab your breakfast and bring it in here?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, I'm just going to pause it real quick and we just bring your breakfast in here.